Welcome back, everybody, to your creativity. It's 2021. We're back at it again, and we've got some special guests today. They've been doing this a lot longer than we have, and I would say even better. They've got it down, and it's the I Am Salt Lake podcast hosts, Chris Holifield and Krissie Holifield. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks so much for the invite, Dylan. Great to be here. Great to be here, Stephen.
Hello. Thanks for letting me in. I'm really Chris is the one that has it down, and I'm the one that's here like trying to mess him up and see how he can catch my mistakes.
So you're his Steve.
Yeah. I keep him on his toes, man.
Chris, when you were looking for a co-host, is that what you were looking for?
I to be honest with you, I wasn't looking for a co-host. It just kind of happened. I don't know
if you just like volunteered.
Well, no, I kind of forced it upon her because we were dating at the time, actually, and she was doing all the back end work of I Am Salt Lake, doing the website and the logos and all of that. And I always felt like something was missing from the podcast, but I didn't 100% know what it was. And I was like, maybe I should invite Krissie to co-host this with me. But I was like, well, what if it doesn't work out? Would that ruin our relationship? Would that, because we were, like I said, we were dating and, you don't know where that will go. And what if we broke up and then wanted to keep doing the podcast? So, it was kind of a tricky, messy.
Yeah. And I could tell while we were dating, you would do little things to test me, like put me in situations where you'd kind of see how I'd react.
Yeah. All right, let's hear one of the tests.
Or let's we would start podcasts all the time on the side just for fun. I mean, we're two podcasters who met dating. What are you going to do? You're going to sit in your apartment at Friday night and make a podcast for yourselves. So, we that was kind of part of our dynamic. But I also knew that I am a little bit, I like to say passionate and quirky, but a little more goofy than Chris. He's very professional and he's very, he's just really, really good. And I was so scared that I would come in and just mess everything up. So
do you remember your first podcast together?
The first podcast together was actually probably the time I interviewed you on I Am Salt Lake, wasn't it, Krissie?
Yes, I think it was.
Or did we try doing that Dating Baggage podcast together first?
I think we did Dating Baggage first.
Okay.
Because it's weird to date someone where you both have things that you're doing and you've never actually met each other before, but you live in the same world, but you've never asked each other to do anything. So it's kind of like, I'm kind of offended, but now we can't do stuff together because we're dating, but you're awesome and I admire you. And
So we actually started another podcast. The first podcast we did together was called Dating Baggage, because at the time we were both, just dating and we had all these dating stories. And so we thought it would be a good idea to start this podcast, which in theory sounds fun, but it's not the best idea for people that are dating to share other dating stories. I don't know. That didn't work.
Well, and then on the flip side, you lay everything out on the table right away.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool thing, but wait till you really want to get to know the person. That's my advice.
Well, it kind of did something for you both.
Yeah, well, we eventually got married.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah.
It is a win. I'll take it.
Eventually got married, eventually had a kid together, and now we're still doing I Am Salt Lake together. That's the only podcast we're doing together right now is I Am Salt Lake. And especially with everything going on this last year with 2020, it just seems like that was about all we could handle doing together. Well, I didn't mean it that way. I'm just doing that with all the other.
Yeah, no, because we don't want to kill each other.
Well, you would think you had all this time in the world, right? Because you're at home and you're doing it, but it seemed like I had less time this last year. I don't know.
It really does. It does feel like we've had less time this whole year. And I wonder if that's because we think we're doing nothing, but we're actually trying to do a bunch. Does everyone else feel that way?
I'm a hermit. So I come to the chocolate shop, I eat sugar cookies, I go home.
I will trade you. How would you like to live in a house with 4 kids and then I'll go eat chocolate?
It's really tempting. I would get them all hopped up on sugar and it would be amazing for like an hour. And then they would just be like total sugar rush. And then they would crash.
See, but that's good parenting. I mean, run, stop.
There's probably a good reason why I'm not a father. So yeah, that could be one of them.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I'm going to still come eat chocolate though.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, for me, when I was home all the time, I got less done. So like me going out and doing a little bit of things helps me motivate to get moving. So when I was stuck home, it was not helpful at all.
Oh man. So do you actually go somewhere now for day? Like, are you working from home?
Most of a good chunk of last year, I was working at Salt Lake Community College in the morning, and we were home. They sent us home for a while for, I think it was like April and May, and then they brought us back in June, and I left there at the end of October. And now I work with Quick Balloons. It's a balloon bouquet delivery business. I was with a past guest who his main business closed down because it was for events, balloon structures for events. So this is his turn to keep going while events are canceled. So that's what I do in the morning. Then I come home and work on Wise Guy stuff and Dry Bar stuff and the podcast.
Right on.
So it's
It's
good
nice
to shake
to
things out.
Start your day, like leave the house a little bit to start your day, you know?
Yeah, that's what I liked about Slick, is that I have a way, but
unless your house is amazing like Dylan's. I mean, so Dylan lives in luxury, and so sometimes I think leaving would be a pain in the butt.
No, I don't want to leave some mornings.
I mean, if I had a bowling alley in my basement, I would never leave.
Yeah.
Even though I don't actively go bowling right now, but if it was in my vicinity, I would want to do it all the time.
Well, that's how you should make your home.
Oh,
You should make your home to be a place you want to be at, right? Never have.
We've had that discussion a lot this year. Like
exactly.
when you spend all of your time at home, you're like, man, let's make this place cool. Because
So that's both of your. Is that Chris's dream also? A bowling alley in the basement?
Well, no.
Oh no, I just dropped that bomb on him right now.
I was gonna say, this is the first I heard about this. You know, she's got to.
That could be a deal breaker.
Well, maybe not that far. You know, I don't know, but bowling.
Oh, I could think of bigger things. I could think of more.
Ferris wheel in the backyard, but
no, I just want to be Richie Rich for one day. That's all.
I want to be Silver Spoons, the train going through the house.
That was cool.
I don't think I've ever seen. Is that a movie?
It's a TV show. Ricky Schroeder.
TV show. Have not seen it.
Yeah, it's basically
that was
Richie
like
Rich
old
as a teenager.
Yeah, the old. Wasn't that an old '80s show?
Yeah.
Silver. Yeah.
Maybe all the cool kids watched it.
Yeah, that and Small Wonder. You guys remember Small
Wonder?
Wonder?
Small Wonder. Yeah, classic.
Yeah, you know, that was the show, and then for some reason,
Punky Brewster.
Punky Brewster. Okay,
Punky Brewster's coming back. It'll be on Peacock soon, I think.
Ooh, I don't know. Like the original, or are they remaking it?
Remaking it. So Moon Fry's coming back as Punky, as the mother. Yeah.
Really? I just don't know how I feel about all of this. Like trying to I'm sorry, you guys. I'm not used to this by my hands. Like all the remaking of the 80s and 90s stuff. It's like a little too soon, right?
Yeah.
Like we still remember it. You're crushing our memories. Wait till we're dead and then remake it. Because then it's like new for people. That's my personal request.
Well, most of them aren't working either.
All of them. Yeah, they're just lame. So don't ruin it for us.
Hey, keep it going. I haven't watched that new Cobra Kai. Have you guys watched Cobra Kai yet?
Cobra Kai is awesome. If there was Cobra Kai. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
No, everybody I've seen like on Facebook, they've just been raving and talking and saying it's such a great show. And it didn't look that interesting, like based off the previews that I saw, but I was like, all right, based off of these, I should probably watch it.
And I haven't even looked at a preview because I keep seeing the picture of it in Netflix. And I'm like, what? They brought back it looks like they brought back all the guys from Karate Kid and they just tried to make something with it.
They needed house payments. So they were just trying to get some extra income coming in.
That's kind of the feeling I got from seeing the picture. No idea what it's about. I literally judged a movie by its cover.
Right?
Yes. See,
I'm with you though.
Don't judge books, but movies. Oh.
Wait, so what makes a good movie for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel thanks for like derailing with me. This is fun.
This is what we do. Just let it go where it
What does make a good movie? Either you have to make me laugh like crazy, or you have to have really good characters.
Okay.
Those are my two requirements.
You know, you don't even share that kind of stuff with me.
Oh, well, now you know.
Chris, what do you like?
Well, I've never really thought. Let's think here. I like different. It depends what mood I'm in, really. I mean, I like to laugh. Really, I like a more realistic movie. I'm not good with like fantasy movies that are too made up. I like to feel like I could be in the movie, I guess. I don't know. It just depends what I'm in the mood for, really.
Yeah, and I am totally the opposite, where I want to live in fantasy.
Yeah.
So
and I have completely opposite. Well, no, we can agree.
It's cool. We can agree on good things. Like the ones that we come to an agreement on are usually pretty badass because it has, we have such different requirements for a good movie.
Yeah.
That it has to fulfill all of them.
So what are some of those?
Ooh, what's that one? Well, maybe it's not fantasy, but Maude. What's the one you introduced?
Harold and Maude?
Harold and Maude.
That's a classic. Have you guys seen Harold and Maude, the old 1970s?
I've never seen it.
Oh man. Wait, have we watched Who's Up? What's Up doc yet together, Chris?
With Barbara Streisand?
Yes.
I don't think we've watched
I don't think we've watched it together, but that is a good show.
That is a good show.
I'm gonna just come do movie nights with you both. So I'll just be like the awkward third person, like sitting on the couch with popcorn.
Okay.
Perfect. We need people to like yell at the movie with us.
I'll be like, what the hell are you guys watching? That's where I am gonna come.
Oh, I see. The popcorn's for you watching us.
Maybe.
Watching movies that you don't like.
I think any of us would go for a movie night though now. I mean, some sort of more human interaction.
Dude, I would go to a bad movie, but not like so bad it's good, just straight up bad. Like you want your hour back. I would go to a movie like that just to have a date night.
Yeah.
At this point.
Isn't that Wonder Woman?
Wonder Woman.
Wait, the new one? I haven't seen it yet, but
I don't know. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
It's not reviewing well. And I was disappointed. I'll just leave it at that.
Really? Oh, it's too bad.
Because I think everybody loved the first one so much that it's probably hard to keep that up.
Yeah, and I think like it's interesting. I love watching society from the point of view as a user experience designer in my life, because we study people's behavioral patterns and how every time they see something, they expect that to be the baseline for everything they compare it to. So as a society, we're constantly trying to one-up ourselves nonstop and expecting that to be the baseline. So all these amazing things are coming out and happening, and we're all just kind of being really kind of dicks about how cool everything is, like we really have cool stuff. Life is pretty good.
But we got to complain if possible.
But we got to complain. And that's on my soapbox rant. And I have not watched Wonder Woman, but I'm going to assume it's fantastic because our baseline is the problem.
Oh, that's so endearing.
What a way to make like.
I'm sorry. My brain's a hot mess. This is fun. I love breaking stuff down and trying to figure it out.
So when you interview people, what would you say would be the best techniques for interviewing, or what would be a successful interview?
Oh, that is Chris's department.
Yeah, we haven't figured it out
both
yet.
Of you.
what would make a successful interview? Like, I think,
or in
like,
your mind, how do you
in my
determine?
mind, if I felt a connection with the person that I was talking with, you know, when after they've left, if I there's like this thing inside of me that like craves this connection that happens when people talk. And when that happens, boom, perfect. That's the perfect interview.
Yeah, that is the perfect interview. What about what are tips for, sometimes we do interview people who are very shy and they're amazing, but they're not used to bragging, you know? And so sometimes a lot of that is it get to know people before you start interviewing them a little bit, or maybe have some conversation with them ahead of time, uh, to let them feel comfortable being themselves and feeling confident. And that can be a challenge, simply because people who don't often interview, or like a lot of the people we speak with, they're really busy working and doing all these cool things and building stuff in the city. They're not taking time to go promote themselves,
Yes,
like
they get kind
rarely.
of embarrassed when they have to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
they
can't talk
they
about
think
myself.
they're not great, and it's like, holy
Yeah.
cow, are you, and so for guests, for people who are asked to be guests on show, you are asked because they want to talk to you, and you are a badass. That's my advice to invitees. But
See, and I sometimes don't like to talk prior to it because I want like a genuine interaction, and so I sometimes like try to shut up and just like my mind will want to ask so many questions beforehand that I have to limit myself so that I can just make that interaction a little more real, like as it's happening.
that's fair.
And I'm with you. With
Yeah.
that, because the way I look at it is, if I know too much about the person, then I don't ask the good questions, right? Or if I know too much about even what's going on. So it's like, I want to be curious along with my listeners, right? Because my listeners, chances are they don't know that person's story. So let's
Yeah,
learn about
yeah.
it together. Let's learn
And
about
that's
it together.
totally fair point. And I think that's an interesting thing, that it does make such an interesting balance for the interviewer in an interview style podcast. It's something that I don't know. Like, I mean, Chris and I, you and I talk about this all the time. Like, how can we let people know that they can just relax and be comfortable? And that's hard. Like, we all know that's really hard in general. And I
mean,
think that
Graham
more
Norton
people are going to
seems
have
to
that
use,
problem now.
like, I love watching Graham Norton, but he tends to use alcohol. So I'm thinking that maybe that's the route to go some days. It's
Well,
just
I mean,
load them up on something and just
well, that's
let
how
it
you
go.
get good stories. I mean, hello. That's why drunk history is such a success.
I look back over any of my recordings when I was drunk much better than when I was sober.
But then, you got to get really drunk before you listen to them. Then they're like, oh, I just did great. That was wonderful.
Do you listen to your podcast like afterwards? Absolutely. Or do you do the interview and then that's it?
No, I listen because, listen back. So this is my listening routine. I don't know if Krissie has, and I'll let her speak for herself. But so of course I listen back when I clean it up. And then I usually listen back to it the very next day. I listen to it in the app and the whole 9 yards, just to listen to it as a listener, make sure it uploaded okay, and make sure there's no pieces missing, anything like that. And then I revisit episodes as years go on. I mean, because as years go on, you want to listen and see how far you come as a podcaster and where you can learn, right? So I'll go back and listen to old episodes all the time. I mean, at least 5 to 8 a week, I listen to of old episodes.
Oh, well, and okay, Krissie, you answered, but I also, then going from that, like, do you guys each have like a favorite podcast that you are currently listening to? Not yourselves, but just something else. So.
We got completely different listening styles, but I'm curious, Krissie, do you ever listen back to like I Am Salt Lake at all?
So I do listen back. I don't listen back to every episode. I'm working up the courage to listen to more, especially some of the ones where I was new. But I don't have the courage yet to go back and listen because, even podcasters sometimes don't want to listen to themselves.
Yeah, it takes a while to get used to that.
Yeah.
I think I'm along those lines too, where I'm like, yeah, I was there. I lived it. I was in the interview, so I don't need to revisit it. But I think it's more, I hate the sound of my voice.
Yeah, that's what it is for me. It's like, I love the conversation, but I don't want to hear my voice. I don't know. What do you do?
I hear you.
You just got to get used to it.
Yeah, you just got to get used to it.
But you were asking favorite podcast, right?
Yeah.
So my favorite podcast, there's a show, it comes out of Pennsylvania called The Mediocre Show. That's like probably my all-time favorite podcast, just because, I mean, I've been listening to that 10 years, probably, if not more. I'd consider myself pretty good friends with the host of the show. I mean, I've got to visit him, be on the show. That was an exciting highlight of my life. They're just fun people, and just in the friendship that we've created over the years with them has been very fun.
Oh, I will second that. I guess we're picking one, huh?
Yeah, well, come on, Krissie, you're more
man.
you like more of those murder mystery true crime podcasts.
I do, but the thing is, I hate picking one because it's like, I feel like I'm being so mean to the rest of them.
You can name a few.
Yeah.
Okay. The one that I've actually listened to every episode and I stay actively caught up and I am waiting constantly for the next one is And That's Why We Drink. So that would have to probably be my top one. The other ones I listen more passively. So yes, it's two girls talking about two very smart. Oh no, sorry. Two people talking, one non-binary, and they are best friends, and they talk about crime and supernatural phenomenon, and it's just the best.
Yeah, I believe
like
they
it.
came to Wise Guys a year or two ago. Did you go see them when they came?
Oh my gosh, they did, and I did, and they're so great. I love them so much.
It was a pretty good show.
It was so good. I actually brought them, I gifted them one of my favorite books that I bought on our honeymoon. This should have been a red flag when you married me, Chris. we went to California for our honeymoon and we went through this little bookshop. Where was that? It was this amazing bookshop.
It was just outside. I grew up in Ventura, California, and it's just outside. That's where we went for a honeymoon, in this little bookshop. It's called Bart's Book Corner. And it's this outside bookshop. It's in a town called, is it in Ojai or one of those towns? Anyways, great bookshop if you're ever in that area.
Yeah, it was like, then I would live there if I could, but I can't. They kicked me out. I tried to stay, didn't happen.
Wait,
that's a whole story.
You're killing me. What is the book?
Yeah, what's the book?
You like to know? Okay, it's called, what is it called? The Great Big Book of Murder.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Or murder, or but it is it is so cool. It's a fascinating book. It shows the beginning of forensic science. So it talks about all of these murders that happened in the early 1900s, and it's the ones that had a breakthrough in forensic science, and it's the story behind it. And you learn about it by reading the actual trial that happened. It's a really cool book. So I like them enough to give them my favorite book. So you guys should listen to it.
The podcast?
The podcast.
Oh,
the podcast.
I didn't know if
Full
you meant
circle.
The podcast.
I mean, maybe they have the book on Audible too.
Yeah. I wonder if it'd be interesting to listen to. It might be boring to listen to.
You know how we say, well, I only want to listen to books on Audible. I wonder if anybody says I only want to read podcasts and books, right? Like, I wonder if
deaf people.
Like, no, I don't want to listen. I just want to read it. Well, that's true. That's why I guess you do transcripts, right? That's that's why I'm a big promoter of, it's nice to have transcripts.
How do you guys feel about Audible or something like that? I mean, can you follow a book on Audible?
Oh,
does it lose it without the transcript? You need something written.
I do fine either way. I love listening to books on Audible.
Yeah, for me, it's the type of book. Some books I can't listen to because I just tune out. Like, especially, sometimes self-help books, I do better reading them physically because I have to be fully engaged. But I love books that I can more passively listen to and just enjoy audio-wise.
The ones I like to listen to where it's the person that wrote it and they're kind of a significant person, like Obama's books. I like listening to those. And I want to listen to Matthew McConaughey's new book just to hear his voice for hours.
Oh yeah.
Obama's new book is on Audible. Is it him reading it?
His past books. I haven't read or
doesn't he have a new book
one.
out? I think he has a new book out, doesn't he? I swear
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's called.
Okay, this maybe has happened and now I'm curious. Would anyone ever get someone else to read a book they wrote if they were like a public figure? Because that could seem very weird to listen to.
But it could be pretty amazing.
If you're familiar with their voice and the book is a firsthand account, but it's someone else reading it.
But it could be like a book about Obama, and then you get somebody from the hood reading it, and then it's just like they're totally just all kinds of slang.
That's art.
It could actually be a plus.
That would be cool because it's like your take on the book.
People like Obama, they don't have time to sit for like 6 to 8 hours to record a book, do they?
Well, and that's what makes me curious. Like, if you're that high profile and you're doing so many things, how do you even have the time to write the book and then record it? Because we all know how much time it takes to even just record one podcast a week.
Yeah.
Wait, who is that comedian that is famous for doing like just imitating people? Yeah, he was big in the 80s and 90s.
Was it
Caliendo?
I
don't know. They're gonna get somebody like that doing it, just like totally acting like that.
Oh, okay. Like a Oh man, I'm trying to think of sketch comics that do impressions. That type of
thing. I'm not saying the guy was amazing. He was just known for it in the 80s, and I can't totally think of his name at the moment.
You know I'm Googling that as soon as we get off this call because I have to know.
That one dude that was in like the Police Academy movies that made all the sounds.
Oh, the helicopter sound.
Oh yeah,
dude.
that guy was good too.
Michael Winslow.
I was gonna say, for some reason, that's the only person I could think of that made sounds and noises.
No,
that's because he's the coolest. He's the coolest person.
Was like some scary looking uncle type dude that would like be there. But yeah, that guy from the Police Academy is awesome.
Scary looking uncle. Oh man, that's gonna kill me.
Slick back, black hair. Crap, I can't remember.
Slick back hair.
I don't know. You may not have had slick back hair, but it was dark hair.
Huh.
So it looks slick.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
All right.
Okay. I'll send you an email when I figure it out.
Okay, so this podcast might be the worst one that you've ever done, but has there ever been a podcast that just bombed and you were just like, what the hell just happened there? And can you determine what made it bomb?
Be careful here, Krissie.
No, I was going to say
my mom listens to this, but that's the only listener is my mom.
This is more like I'm not. I think for me, my biggest fear, and it's every time we record, is that I did something that made the conversation confusing. So usually it's me going like, okay, like, did I do okay? Like, did I throw? Because I tend to, one thing leads to another and I get excited. And sometimes I throw off the conversation a little bit. So that's usually for me, what makes me worry about it. But I don't know, Chris, if you what, what's gone wrong in a podcast for you that's made you think about it forever?
Was that the question? What's gone wrong in a podcast?
Hey, you can go any way you want with this question.
This is one I struggle with as somebody who's podcast, for a few years, and I've listened to a lot of people talk about interviews, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and they always blame it on the interviewer. Right. They always blame it on like, it's my fault that the interview bombed. And I don't really believe that that's always the case. I believe that your guest has to bring some too, right? Like, you can't always control that as an interviewer. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And
but
I think people are always saying that. They're like, well, if you had a horrible interview, it's your fault because you should have been a better interviewer.
Well, and I think a lot of us have to give each other a little bit of credit too. Being an interviewer, a chronic interviewer, is very difficult. And so, everybody's human. So, we're all doing our best. It's nobody's fault.
I mean, there's been interviews I haven't published. There's been interviews.
That was my next question.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I figure it's my show, mine and Krissie's show. I mean, especially before Krissie got on the podcast, I did it for about 4 years before Krissie got on the podcast. And there were a handful of interviews that I had to scrap, whether it was the quality didn't come out, or there were 2 that I can think of that, I mean, they were on drugs or something when they came over to my apartment to record. And I was just like, what the heck is going on here? This is not, I can't publish this episode.
Yeah, there were a couple that we couldn't really understand the conversation.
You kind of brushed it a little bit ago about like the interviewer, and is there a set step that you go through that to make a good interview as an host? What would you say is important?
That is 1,000,000% Chris. He is like, he's taught me everything about that.
Nothing's coming to mind. You said I've told you stuff about this?
Yeah, I mean, you taught me about, okay, this probably sounds really basic, but when we were dating, and while we were dating, not that we're not doing it now, we talk a lot about podcasting. And, we talked a lot about, because we both started with interview style podcasts. However, they were very different. Uh-huh. And I was the editor and host, kind of my show, but I relied very heavily on my co-host to move the conversation along. Like, she kind of was like, okay, we're starting here, then we're going to talk about this, and I would follow her lead. And so I learned a lot from Chris about how to actually conduct an interview, because I always just did whatever I wanted, never paid attention, still do that most of the time.
So what did I tell you then? I'm curious now.
Well, how you have to build a story. You have to get to know the person, and I mean,
kind of thing.
But the thing is, even basic stuff like that, you don't always think about when you're creating an interview podcast. I don't think everybody does think about that.
Well, you can't lay out the heavy questions first, right? And you want to be
You got to schmooze them before you stick them.
Well, you want to
I'm just kidding.
With your heavy questions, because you don't want to make the guest uncomfortable. You're there to make a friend, not an enemy, right? You want them to be excited about the interview too. You want them to share it. You want them to be excited about talking about it. So you want to get good information. You want to get some juicy stuff, because that's what keeps your listeners there. But you got to kind of walk that as a fine line. You got to figure out how far you could take it. And that's where you got to.
Juicy in the sense that everyone's mom still could listen to it.
Well, maybe not.
Have you ever had to apologize to somebody that you know it's going to offend? And so, like, you may have done an interview, and then afterwards you're like, shit, I need to go apologize to my mom right now in case she does hear this, that at least she's prepared it's coming.
That's all Krissie.
Well, let's just say I come into the room when I visit my parents with a big disclaimer saying, I'm sorry about the podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
No, her parents like to listen to the podcast.
They do, but...
And there's been times, like, especially in the beginning when Krissie and I first started podcasting together, Krissie liked to share some of her childhood stories, and her parents, their parents...
They would call me out. They would call me out. And so my Grammy lived with my parents after I had moved away. And she's like my favorite person in the whole wide world. And she promised to come back and haunt me. So she's here somewhere. But she listened to our podcast every night before she went to bed, so that she could get to know Chris and she could hear our voices and all that stuff. And so I started saying goodnight, Grammy, at the end of every episode, well, because I knew she was listening. But then sometimes she would listen with my parents. And sometimes I just talk and I don't think, which I think, as we all do, you know.
Yeah.
And we all know that memories aren't really this way or that way, and we all kind of build memories different ways. And so, and I can be hyperbolic a bit, you know, you get talking and you go, and then, you know, mom and dad will call. So we heard this happened when you lived at home. And I'm like, oh, but I didn't really mean it that way. Like, if you guys were there, I would have said the same thing. Like, it's weirder when you send it out to general audiences. Yeah. And I think that is true for a lot of people. But that's also authentic. I mean, that's the way that you talk to people in everyday situations. That's why podcasting is what it is. It's not, well, some of them are, but it's not a formulaic thing. It's kind of being your authentic self. And then that's how you find your tribe. That's how you find the people that you connect with.
I actually like that. I like that.
And have you seen the audiences change throughout the years? You know, you've been doing this since 2012, so that's 9 years now. No.
Well, this summer will be 9 years. Yeah, this summer will be 9 years. August 2012, I launched the first episode. Oh, absolutely. I would say I've seen kind of changes with the crowds as far as I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Like in the very beginning, especially, I saw all these different, like the hip hop community here in Salt Lake was really like, oh, you know, this is a great podcast. So then I was bringing on a lot of hip hop people, and I, you know, same thing with like the, you know, comedians in Salt Lake. I had a lot of comedians on Salt Lake on the podcast. And then, you know, so I kind of go through these cycles. I notice of audience people. I don't know. What do you think, Krissie? Do you see that happening a little bit?
I do. Yeah, it's kind of like one thing leads to another, and you just meet so many people, but it happens in kind of this circular manner, you know. You just kind of, but that's interesting because our audience also kind of rotates around the type of people that we bring on the show.
Yeah.
But we both also have listeners who have found us because they followed us from somewhere else. And like from when I originally did my show, you know, back when I did comedy, some people who knew me when I did comedy are still active listeners and friends, right? So sometimes you find some that you become friends, and that's why you connected and you stay connected. But I definitely think audience can ebb and flow, which I think is fair, because like we ebb and flow as people, and so we're kind of trying out different content, and it might not relate to everybody all the time.
Do you guys have a dream guest that's on your bucket list?
Man,
not really anymore. I don't think so. I mean, there's people I would love to talk to. There's people I would love to record an interview with, not necessarily even from Salt Lake City, just somebody I would love to sit down and have a conversation with and record with.
Bill Burr.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Burr would be.
But yeah, if we're talking in the context of Salt Lake.
You know, well, okay, it's Salt Lake. If you want to, okay, it's Salt Lake. Ty Burrell, right, from Modern Family.
Yeah.
From you know, Beer Bar. He has been asked to do it, and he's just like, well, I appreciate it. I like to kind of lay low when I'm in Salt Lake City, you know. So, and
that's like one thing, if someone does say that, I think no one should ever be offended. It's like that is completely respectful, and you know, so, and like we get it. This is a getaway.
I'd love to get one of the mayors on the podcast, but they always have so many hoops to jump through that it becomes exhausting to try to even get it done. And they almost make it impossible for it to ever happen. So, I mean, obviously when I started the podcast, Ralph Becker was the mayor of Salt Lake, and tried him. And then as years went on, you know, over the 8-9 years there.
Well, it's difficult because we're not really a political podcast.
Yeah.
And even if we want to get to know the human behind what they do, like we don't want to bring them on in any kind of promotionary way. We just want to get to know the people. But that's not really the world that politicians live in.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot more red tape to even be able to come on an interview show. But who knows? Maybe one day, like a retired somebody.
Are you both hesitant to actually delve much into your own politics, like as on shows, or do you kind of stay clear of those kind of questions?
Are we playing chicken? We're playing microphone chicken.
No. I mean, that's a sticky situation, because especially a lot of us saw with this last election, I mean, how much,
45-50% of people you're going to offend.
Yeah. And so but then it's tricky, right? Because to me, a podcast, I would rather have more, what good is to have, 1 million listeners if only 100 of them are really your true audience, right? Like those are going to be your people. So I think it is important to talk politically, kind of where you lean. And to me, politics doesn't always necessarily have to mean like, I'm voting Republican or I'm voting Democrat, I'm voting for this person. I mean, there's even things in the local communities that you can express and talk about on a political side without getting, I think, too, where there's going to be that divide that you need to worry about. Because, especially with I Am Salt Lake, it's kind of one of those things, okay? Even with the dominant religion here, it's like I've never wanted to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like insulting, divisive, right? Like even though that's not my cup of tea, we have people that come on that they were raised that way, or we've had people that have wanted to come on that want to talk badly even about, say, the Mormon religion. And I'm like, no, this isn't really the place for that, right? Like, I think there could be places for it. And so that kind of brings it back to the politics and the political, where I try not to go too deep there, just because I don't want to really divide too many people. I don't think that that's really the purpose of like I Am Salt Lake, really. I don't think it needs to go there. I think it's more about promoting the local community. And if politics needs to come there, when on the business side of things, on how downtown is structured, or how business permits or something like that.
Or like when people bring up the liquor laws. Sure, we'll talk about that. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from Chris that way, because being divisive really, or like actively, aggressively divisive, and not necessarily, I'm not saying politics are, but why do you think everything's like, oh, The Office is so political? Because it's kind of a negative thing. Whereas I think most of us we just want to be humans. And like Chris and I, we want to talk to humans. I don't care what their views are, if they are not actively hurting people, if they respect other people and just have their own opinions, but give proper respect to everyone around them. That's all I need to know. We're very much we're pro-human, be awesome, don't be a dick. And I don't think that we should have to really,
great mottos.
Thank you. But we shouldn't have to really delve into all that stuff, because we're not political people. We are human, and like, this is going to sound not what I mean, but we're more quote unquote human advocates, where we just want everyone to rise. We want to help everyone. We don't, and just divisive stuff, just really all it brings is negativity. And that's like literally the last thing we need right now.
Amen.
Yeah.
Looking into the future, what do you see your role as I Am Salt Lake? Where do you see it going?
That's an interesting, that's kind of an interesting question, because there is a bit of a crossroads with I Am Salt Lake right now, right? There's a bit of a, like, what directions do we take this? What directions do we do? And that's kind of what we're, especially with this last year. I mean, even with 2020 came along, and up until then, like we never did interviews this way. We never did interviews remotely. All of our interviews were in person, right? So we had to kind of shift directions that way. So where does I Am Salt Lake go? To be honest with you, I personally don't know. I'd be curious if Krissie has a different answer. It's become part of me. I feel like it's like a limb. It's like a body part. And so I don't ever see it really dissolving, but I don't really know where it's going to go right now. It's kind of in this weird limbo area, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that the really challenging thing is that I wish, and Chris, I know we talk about it all the time. I'm just telling everyone else. It would be nice to be able to actually devote more time to it and really do more to promote the people in the community. It's tough because, you know, we have 4 kids and we're parents and we're like adults having to do all the adulting on top of that. And so we don't have as much time as we wish, because we have a lot of passion that we'd like to put into it and really, you know, highlight the community just forever if we can. But yeah, I know there's the vision. I'm not really sure long-term vision. I think 2020 just made us go, let's just keep going for now. Yeah. Like, let's just make it. Let's just
right now, you know, and not trying to, I don't want to kill it, but I feel
like, you know how like in job interviews when they're all, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I feel like 2020 just broke all of us from that question. It's like, well, fuck, I don't know. I
don't want to wear the mask anymore.
I thought I'd be somewhere else right now, maybe the Bahamas, but look, I'm in quarantine, you know? So it's, I've had more of a limited vision, I guess.
So you guys see the future in podcasting for everybody? I mean, not just you, but podcasting on a general. I mean, the technology has changed from when you first started to where it is now. Where do you see it could be going?
Where do I see the like podcast technology going?
Yeah, like I mean, just the roles of it, just even the technology of interviewing. How you said most of it was in person. Now it's like Zoom. You have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you know, I'll be honest. I don't like the direction that podcasting is going right now. I think I don't like the direction of video that it's going, where to me, that was always the attraction of podcast. It was audio. It's an audio-based format. And I don't know, I'm not a fan of the video part, or or even with Spotify, like I'm not a fan of exclusive podcasts, like on exclusive platforms and stuff like that.
It is becoming much more complicated.
Yeah.
And the concept of podcasting is so broad now.
Yeah. So I'm not too happy about the direction of podcasting, but I like the original idea of podcasting, if that makes sense.
You know, I had a question earlier too that I had forgot. So length of interviews. Have you found that there's a pristine length of an interview, or that you can hold people's attention span for X amount of minutes, then after that it's done? Or do you just let the interview go wherever it goes?
Well, that can be answered 2 different ways, actually. I find when you're interviewing somebody, to get some decent content, you need about an hour to an hour and a half with that person to get them to, because especially in the beginning, right? They're a little kind of still cold and stiff and they're still relaxing. You got to get a little more vodka in them, right? And so then that's kind of, you know, the story, right? You get them to open up. And I think it takes at least an hour for that to happen. Now, however, as a listener, most people I'm discovering, which really is bumming me out, this is another direction of podcasting that I'm not a fan of, is everything is turning into short content, right? Like everything is like 20 minutes, 25-minute episodes. And that was something I always liked about podcasts, was I can put it on pause and come back to it, but I want to get depth, right? Like that's what I love about listening to Joe Rogan, is he gets deep into these conversations, and it's not just skimming the surface that so many podcasts I see are doing now with these 10, 15, 20-minute episodes. It's like, no, I want long stuff. I don't know. That's a long answer, I guess. I don't know if that really answered.
No, I'm in full agreement. I mean, I know that we're a little bit unique, but I listen to podcasts more almost like chapters of a favorite book.
Yeah.
You know, where I can, I want to catch up on this one, and then I'm going to go start this one, and then I'm going to listen, you know, but the longer it is, the more I'm excited, because I want to listen to that content. You know, I'm ecstatic that one of my favorites started at an hour and now they go over 2 hours regularly. Like,
why would
it's
you
the
want
best.
it to end, right? Like,
yeah, you don't want it to stop. You're like, no, you're my friends. Stay with me. Don't leave me. I'll be all alone. You know, yeah. So maybe I need real friends. Who knows? But I like long podcasts. But I agree. It is interesting. I wonder if most podcasters are the same way, or if, you know, I think everybody's a little different, but a lot of audience says that they prefer around 20 minutes, which would annoy me
yeah,
a little bit. Because I'd be like, nope, keep talking.
Yeah, I feel an hour is a magic number, but if it's really good and they can keep it the whole 2-3 hours, I'm in.
Yeah. No, there has been times, even Joe Rogan, I'm like, you should have cut that off after an hour. And he kept going a little too long.
And it depends on the conversation too, you know? You have to let conversations take on a life of their own and see what happens. Because we did one that was 2 hours and released it in 2 parts, and it was actually one of the best ones that we got feedback on. People loved it, and it was 2 times the length. But was it 2 episodes, or did we release a 2-hour episode?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
AJ Wentworth.
Oh no, that we released that all in one episode.
All in one episode. It was just a longer one.
Yeah.
And people loved it. So you never know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have one listener, my mom. Her attention span is like,
hi, tell her
it's
hi.
not what it used to be.
So does that mean it's better or worse? Because
I mean, I'm lucky if she remembers who I am. So I think it's an okay thing.
Okay.
And then she'll be like, or it will be, I trained him so much better than this. And then she's like, where have I failed? That's so, I probably give her a lot of those moments as well.
I think that's every parent's right, and every child's right to give that to their parent. To all of our moms, you're welcome.
Where can people find you?
Where can people find us, Krissie? I'll let you have that honor.
Oh, I'm terrible at this stuff. You can find us at iamsaltlake.com, or in your favorite podcast player, search for I Am Salt Lake, and on social media. Every
audio listening device, you could say that. Wherever you listen to audio, you can find I Am Salt Lake podcast, even in Audible.
Yeah.
Amazon, it's everywhere.
Spotify.
Yeah.
All the places.
The smart speakers.
The smart speakers. Ask your Alexa. Oh, hopefully no one's went off. Oh, mine went off. Okay. Sorry.
The one that's right by you went off.
I've been in so many meetings where Siri's like, I can't find that, out of the blue. But yeah, just
where's Sarah? I am not Siri.
I know. Exactly. Hashtag I Am Salt Lake, @ I Am Salt Lake, and
just all over.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm not used to this right here.
And Chris, tell us about your other podcast, you're In the Weeds.
Yeah, so that's a project. That's a podcast actually coming up on the 1-year anniversary of that. I started that the end of February. I launched the first episode of that. So we had a Tim Pickett. He's a pot doctor, basically, to put it bluntly.
Bluntly.
I guess, yeah, there we go. No pun intended. So we brought him on I Am Salt Lake podcast. And, I had such a great time with him And before that, we were starting to bring a lot of people in the cannabis industry, as medical cannabis is kind of, that became legal here in March of 2020. And so I was like, shoot, instead of just clogging up I Am Salt Lake with a bunch of cannabis related interviews, what if I do another podcast, but invite this other guy to co-host it with me? I didn't know who he was, I'm still getting to know him, And I asked him, he said, sure. But then then COVID came in, and that really kind of screwed things up because, he's never podcasted before. So we had to try to figure out how to do it over computers as well. And it's just been fun. I mean, just to be involved in the local medical cannabis industry and being able to have these patients and business owners share their stories. It's really become one of the highlights of my week by doing it. So yeah, and that's UtahInTheWeeds.com is where you can find that podcast.
It's like super helpful for people who are curious about, looking into your medical card or understanding more about it too. It's a good resource.
When I took a vacation to Colorado, I went to my first place there, and it was very interesting. It was weird how kind of clinical it was, buying for the first time from a dispensary.
Yeah.
They had the medical section and then the
Recreational.
the regular. Yeah, it was very interesting. So
go ahead. Oh, no, I was just going to say, well, you were mentioning the dispensary. I mean, it's interesting how so many of them, saying clinical. I mean, you feel like you're walking inside like an Apple store or something, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Clean and pristine and white and
yeah, like
beautiful.
Did you ever walk in and you're like, oh, don't touch anything. I don't want to break anything.
Yeah.
You should have like a pearl necklace. It's just so nice in there.
How soon do you think Utah will have recreational?
That's an interesting question because, especially with the new president now, we'll see where things go. I believe it's going to be legalized. Personally, I see it happening by next year, U.S. wide.
Federally?
Federally. That's going to be a tough question whether Utah is going to be able to fight that back or not, right? Like, are they going to say, hey, no, we don't want it in Utah? Or is that going to be, so I don't know. I say by next year, if that answers your question.
Yeah. I think it will be a major cash cow for the state too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would. Think about what they could put towards education.
Exactly.
I mean,
here's the thing. Colorado became recreational in 2014, right? So that's only 6 years ago. Look at all of the stuff that's happened in the last 6 years, how quickly it's moved. And that's why I truly believe with how quickly it moved, including medical cannabis here in Utah, whoever would have thought that would happen. So that's why I believe it'll happen next year.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
It'll also be interesting to see which vape shops automatically become pot shops.
Well, yeah.
Steve, should we do bonus questions or did you have anything else?
Go for it.
All right. This is your creativity. So we asked our guests, what does creativity mean to you?
What does creativity mean to me? Do you have an answer for that yet, Krissie? My mind's still going. I'm trying to formulate.
Mine's kind of a jumble of words ready to jump on a soapbox. So you want to? Should we go there? Should we go there?
Yeah.
Where you want.
No, creativity is literally my favorite word and the most important thing in the world to me. I know it's like I believe creativity and curiosity are intertwined, and curiosity and curiosity is the highest form of intelligence to me. And if you're curious and you take what you're curious about and get creative with it, you're making the world a better place. So it's a creativity to me is a method to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I was going to say a limitless imagination, no boundaries on where you go. I mean, creativity is whatever, that's that person's soul and spirit.
That makes me think of Back to the Future.
Yeah.
When they get in the car, we're going back to the future. It's unlimited.
So, and then next, who are your favorite Muppets and why?
Oh.
And this includes Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, any Jim Henson created Muppet.
To be fair, I was never really into the Muppets. So, I mean, I don't know if I can really answer that. I mean, I could say like Animal or something just because he was super hyper.
This covers Sesame Street too.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right?
Oh, well, okay.
This is ridiculous. I claim the fifth. Plead the fifth. I've never been in court.
I'm going to say Animal though.
Yeah. No, mine's probably the Swedish Chef.
I love the Swedish Chef.
He's just the best. Him or Beaker. Beaker is awesome.
Beaker.
He's probably one of my favorites. I like the ones that talk a lot and don't make sense. Oh, yeah. Sensing a pattern.
All right. And lastly, in the movie of your lives, who would you like to play you?
Oh, Tina Fey. Tina Fey, hit me up, girl.
I had a good one for this at one time. I thought of the perfect person to play me. And now I can't think of
Tom Hanks.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, Tom Hanks would be an amazing you.
People have told me that my voice sometimes can sound like Tom Hanks.
But he also grows a solid beard.
Yeah.
And you guys have similar mannerisms. I don't think you realize it.
Okay, I'm going to go with Tom Hanks for this podcast then.
Wow, what a pushy wife. That was a super controlling wife thing to do. I am so sorry, babe. You pick your own.
No, I love it. Tom Hanks.
Favorite Tom Hanks movie?
Or Kevin Costner.
Oh, favorite Tom Hanks movie. I'd have to definitely go with Big.
Forrest Gump here. What about you, Krissie? Favorite Tom Hanks movie?
Ooh, favorite Tom Hanks movie. Oh, I just also have to say Kevin Costner too. I'm just throwing my things in the ring for Chris that I want to see. Gosh, favorite Tom Hanks movie.
So many good ones though, right?
You know what? Growing up, like my go-to movie almost all the time was You've Got Mail. So I know it's not one of his more popular ones, but I'm very attached to that movie.
What about The Money Pit? That was a good one.
Okay, The Money Pit was great too. Okay. Oh, The Burbs. Why didn't I think of The Burbs? Packing dust. Oh, okay. Okay. Just kidding. It's The Burbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was good.
Easily.
God, Turner and Hooch was good. Come on.
Okay, I haven't seen that. Is that Turner and Hooch?
No, that was actually pretty bad. But
they're making
now I have to
show
see it
out of that for Disney Plus.
They're Turner and Hooch. They're making a what out of it?
A
Disney
TV show
Plus series.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
It's like a detective and his dog or something. Wasn't that the story of that? If I remember. Yeah. Wild.
I've heard a lot of people say the words, but I literally have no prior knowledge of Turner. What is it called?
Turner and Hooch.
Turner and Hooch. Well, we'll have to check it out.
It's a man and a big dog movie. They had quite a few of them at that point. Steve, what about you? Favorite Tom Hanks?
No, I love The Burbs, man.
Right, there we go.
I would take that.
Well, that's all I've got question-wise and whatnot. Steve, anything else?
You guys, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Fun, to be on the other side of the table kind of and have to open up a little bit.
That's good.
Exactly.
It's fun. It's fun to not have to do anything. Thanks for letting us just show up and talk at you.
Wait, am I supposed to be doing something? Because I just show up and listen.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, if this gets out there, then I think we all did something. Perfect.
So if somebody
Good job,
wants to
team.
be on your show, how can they how can they contact you?
Probably just through the best email would just be hello@iamsaltlake.com. And then that goes through and that goes to Krissie and myself. And then we kind of, and it's tough. It's not, we'd love to bring everybody on. It's just tough to get to everybody. That's really the best answer I can give.
Well, you let my brother on, so you'll literally let anybody on.
Well, I mean,
sometimes you get desperate, right? I mean,
well, you haven't got too desperate. I'm not on there yet.
it's been a tough year.
Yeah. Well, and then it's tough too, because you're like, well, who needs the biggest promotions right now? Small businesses, and then you're like, who should we? Anyway.
Yeah, we've been working really hard this year on trying to help small businesses like get afloat and stay afloat. It's been a big goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys are amazing.
Hey, that's your angle for Ty.
For what now?
That's your angle to get Ty.
Oh, Ty Burrell.
Yeah, he's totally in with that. And as far as with Bar X and all those guys, I mean, he was one of the first to set up funding for servers and food workers that were losing their income. Yeah. That would be an interesting topic to have him on for like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe he would even hop on a phone call, It'd be a little less intimidating than, because when I approached him originally, like I said, back then we were still meeting in person, and it would have been a little more effort on his end to have to. Mm-hmm. But now it's a little easier. Most of us are just indoors anyway, so it's like, all right, I'll hop on a phone call or hop on a webcam or something.
And actually, it really would be cool to have him on to even discuss. I mean, like him, celebrity-wise aside, him as a businessman coming to Salt Lake and pushing so much to improve the bar scene and the nightlife and all the things that he's done for Salt Lake. It would be really neat to really understand everything that he's put into the city.
Cotton Bottom, and buying Cotton Bottom and that.
Yeah.
That would be cool to find out, especially you guys talking about small business. They really seem in on that. I like that.
Yeah, me too. That's so great.
That's cool that you do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
We're all doing what we can, right? Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Anytime. Well,
after we're done, I'll tell you my new project.
Okay.
Should I bore them with my new project?
Yeah,
we can say goodbye first to people.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.